It's time for the big conversations. Telling stories of movers and shakers, of industry giants and daring professionals. It's time for the conversations that change your perspective on life. The kind of conversations that shape entrepreneurs and move careers forward. If you don't know where these conversations are found, we are sending you a GPS. But if you're listening to this voice right now, you are here. Welcome to the Growth Podcast. This is the GPS.
Welcome to number 47 of the Growth Podcast. We're very happy that you're here. In case you have come from Prime TV, welcome. The podcast is showing on Prime TV on Tuesdays. I think at about, 20:45 after the news on Prime TV. So anytime after the news, you will be able to catch the podcast. We have been really exposing you to a lot of people in different areas. Others are people in business, others are people in careers. But the whole idea is that we have some really interesting growth conversations to share their stories so that you better have an understanding about where they're coming from, but then also use that to look at your own life and say, where can I make the changes? Where can I make the progress? So we're counting down to episode number 50, which is like half of a century of episodes. So we're really looking forward to number 50. And number 50, by the way, will be very special, so look out for it. Today our focus is basically around a number of things. It's around business, it's around marriage, it's about life in general, it's about transitions, it's about a whole lot of things. And my guest is bringing all of that to the conversation. My guest on this episode of the podcast is Mrs. Nachy Siatwambo. Some of you may know her, some of you may not know her. Whatever the case is, at the end of today, you obviously are going to know her. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Suilanji. I'm glad to be here.
No, we're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
Is it, did I say the name correctly? Is it Nachombe or Najombe? What is it? Najombe. Any connection to Mashombe Blue Jeans?
At all. Maybe where we're coming from, but no connection.
No connection whatsoever.
No.
Okay. I've got some icebreaker questions. I know we have some icebreaker questions, but I've got some cards that will help us kickstart the conversation.
Okay.
I want you to pick how many do I have? I have 4 of them. I want you to pick 2, and then the other ones I already have them here. So just pick 2 of those. Pick 2, read them out, and then answer them.
Okay. So I've picked the first one.
Yeah.
And the question goes, what's the best advice you received from your mother? Okay, so the best advice that I have received from my mother, there are a lot, but I think I can pick one where my mother advised me that I should respect humanity. Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay.
So
that's very good advice, eh?
Yeah, it is. And the second one that I have picked is describe a time when you needed extreme courage to keep going because others gave up. Okay. Describe a time when you needed extreme courage to keep going because others gave up. I think it's in times of business, at times when business really is in the valley and you just have to move on despite all the hurdles that you go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's the business going?
It's going well. We can't complain. Of course, it's season at times. It's going well. At times, you're in the valleys. But at the end of the day, we keep moving because it's a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since it's a business, obviously you make money. What's your favorite thing to spend money on?
Well, I love shopping. Yes, so I spend my money without realizing how much I've spent at the end of the day.
Are you one of those that just go and pick clothes, you don't check price tags, then just, it's 17,000. Oh, okay, can I swipe?
Not really. I am a bit strict, but I love shopping.
Oh, you love shopping?
Yeah, I love shopping.
Okay,
Yeah.
And if you could host a podcast like this one, who would you bring as the first guest?
I have a lot of people that really inspire me. Maybe locally, I would say Mizinga Melu is one of the women that I look up to.
Okay.
Yes. So I would want to know more about her.
If there's one question to ask her, that's one question. What question would it be?
I would ask her how she manages the pressure of her work and also home chores, knowing that she's a wife and a mother.
Okay, that's
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, soon we'll have her, so ask her for you.
Okay.
And what would you say is one thing that you cannot live without?
Maybe a gadget, a phone.
You can live without your phone.
I can't.
So if
in
you're
that I
driving,
haven't
driving to Livingston and you reach Mazabuka and you realize you forgot your phone and you're going to be there for 7 days, would you
Actually, I
go
can't
back?
even forget it because it's a gadget that I use every after maybe 5-10 minutes because I get my news and also updates, communicate using my phone. So really 30 minutes can't pass without touching it.
And of all the things that you own, what's the one thing that really has sentimental value for you?
Not really owning, but maybe somebody that I have met in life. I would say my husband is so sentimental in my life because he's changed a lot of things in me. And I think I really associate that with a lot of value.
Okay, her husband, by the way, is Dr. Siatwambo. How did you guys meet?
Well, it was just a meeting like any other couple that has met in life. And for us, it was friendship at first. And then later, it grew up into something that we are appreciating now.
How long did you guys know each other before you got married?
We knew each other for about 4 years, just as colleagues, as friends. And as time went, it was maturing into something that grew.
So you were
into
friends for 4 years?
marriage. Yes.
These days things have changed. These days, 1 year. No, you ask
things
you,
are changing,
where
but
are we
then
going?
it was a mere friendship, and then something starts developing and showing some interest, and later on it went into a serious, close relationship.
Okay.
Yes, so we started discovering each other and also understanding each other and admiring each other to say, I think this can make a good life partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the time that you were meeting, tell me how were your lives? Were you guys comfortable? How was it?
Well, it wasn't, there was no comfort at all in terms of wealth or anything. It was just a life like any other person in life. And because we were just friends, there was nothing like, making plans of what our life would be like because we were just friends. And then when we got into a serious relationship, we started, of course, planning together, talking about life. Yeah.
Okay. And there is this connection people have that you are happy because you have a life of abundance. That it's hard for someone who's got nothing to be happy, but that happiness is tied to having wealth and possessing property and money and whatnot. What would you say the experience is like for you? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so, personally. Yeah, I feel abundance actually brings a lot of stress. We have seen a lot of people that have in abundance, but they're not happy. So happiness is not about having in abundance. And we have seen people that don't have in abundance, but they're very happy, living a very good life and happy. Yeah, so abundance is just one of those things maybe that can add to happiness because you have everything to your disposal and you're enjoying life.
But some people say that, you'd rather have the stress of having money than the problems of not having it.
I am not.
Even I would rather be stressed about this 5 million. Anyway, let me just take it to the bank.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends, but I don't think abundance would clear you from being happy, rather. But I, for one, abundance actually comes with its own hurdles, and even the 5 million that one would be looking for, you find that it has somewhere where it is going. It is because of the pressure. And to some extent, you would even say maybe people that don't have at times, they live a happy life.
Okay.
Because there's no pressure that is coming from outsiders to ask for anything, where people can't believe you to say you don't have at that particular time. They just look at you to say you are living in abundance and therefore you cannot fail to give somebody a 5 million or anything.
You told me earlier that you are basically like you consider yourself a village person. And obviously, if that was your lifestyle, it means you had this phase in your life where you had nothing. Mm-hmm. How do you still derive happiness when you have nothing? At your lowest point, how do you still find happiness in life?
Well, happiness for me, I look at it to be something that one can choose to live by. Yeah, but of course, on the other hand, there are some things that hit us. For instance, maybe ailments. One cannot choose to have those ailments, and you find that because of those ailments, one will not live a happy life because they are in pain at that particular time. But inwardly, we're able to control our own happiness. Of course, we have the outward aspect, which is the environment, the people that you live with. Maybe it's the family, relationships, and all those things. You find that someone is affected by those outward experiences that hit them badly, and they fail to live a happy life. But inwardly, as a human being, you can choose to be happy. Like in my case, I wake up every day and I tell myself that I'm a happy soul and I have to live a happy life. So I make sure that I go around things that make me happy. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you are from the village. Paint a picture for me of what that village life was like before you even knew that your life would turn around to what it is today. How was it like?
It's a life that I wouldn't want to rewind and relive. If it can be relived, I wouldn't want, because after having gone through it, when I look back, I feel suffering was very painful. At the time when I was living it, it was a normal life because it was defined by the people that we were living with, and whatever they told you, it was gospel truth, and you live by that suffering. But then when you get out of those sufferings and you're doing fine at a certain stage, you start looking back and say, oh, this is how I suffered. Yeah, so it was a hard life, very hard life. From the family point of view, it's a life where I lived with my mother, who was a single mother, because my dad died when I was still young, and he left us without nothing. And I could see my mother go to beg from her relatives for us to eat, to get to school, which school was not even making sense because there was no inspiration at all. No one would tell you to say, go to school because you need to do this afterwards. There was no inspiration. There was no one that we were looking up to. Personally, I was lost, ambitionless, where you don't know where you're going. You're going to school because your mom has told you to say you have to go to school. And when you come back from school, it's life as usual, and you're doing the chores. You're not even understanding to say, I'm going to school for what? So even graduating, like at grade 7, I passed. They told me I passed with flying colors. I had 722, which I didn't even understand then. So I saw people celebrating my grade 7 results. No, she's done well. She's actually the best girl at school and all that. And that is the time that I realized to say, oh, okay, so this passing now seems like it's a new phase of life. And it looks like I'm going somewhere else. But then it was so painful at the time I passed grade 7 because my mother could not afford anything for me to get into secondary school. And instead of celebrating, she was instead crying. So I wondered why they cry. So it was so hard. But to cut the long story short, it passed and I managed to go to school. She managed to push what she could, sold some chickens, sold some goats for me to get into school until I finished my grade 12.
Were you the only child?
No, I'm actually the last born in the family of 8. And my brothers and sisters were not learned. They were just in the farm.
So you're the only one that was going to school?
I'm the only one actually that has gone to school up to university.
And the rest are still in the village?
There are some, of course, they've gone to be with the Lord. Most of them actually have gone to be with the Lord. And 2 are still in the village, and I'm the only one in town.
So how then did you find yourself in Lusaka? And by the way, which village are we talking about?
Oh, okay. I was born and bred in Liteta. That's where I was born.
Liteta.
That's Siatwambo, yes.
Okay.
Yes, the remote area of Kawe. Yes.
And
so I found myself in Lusaka. I followed my sister, my older sister. One of my older sister came to Lusaka to do some business in Soweto. She was running a restaurant. And when I finished my grade 12, she told me that I should come to Lusaka and join her in Chawama. And then it was at that point that I came to know town, actually, to know Lusaka, to be specific, because I did my secondary school in Kawe. So at least I knew what town was from grade 8 to grade 12. So when I came to Lusaka, joined my sister, started doing some business with her. I was helping her with the restaurant business. where would be serving the clients from Soweto there, Kushima, and all that. It was a very small business, but I had a lot of experience from the business that my sister was doing. That's how come I found myself in Lusaka. And life started from there, where my sister was trying to raise some money for me to get into university, but we were not managing because it was like hand to mouth. Yeah, and then afterwards, as we were struggling, I met Rosias. Yes, and for him, he was just coming as a client at the restaurant as well. I think he was also doing his own things in life. And then we became friends. He would ask me a lot of questions about the business and all that. I didn't know to say he was already in a small businesses that he was doing of photocopying, because he was owning a small business of, it was called, what? I don't know. I can't even remember the name of a business, but it was photocopying and printing business, yes, that he was doing at the time. So it was at that time that we clicked. And then from there, the friendship started, and we found ourselves into a serious relationship that led us to get to my home. And we got married. By the way, we didn't do any wedding because at that time, we weren't able to fund ourselves for any event. So we were just blessed by our parents, both parents, and then we started off the journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, here are these two hustlers. Now, you are doing your restaurant in Soweto. He is doing his photocopying. And I know at some point you used to do Salaula business, right? Like you go and buy like dirty Salaula, wash it.
It was actually at that time that he used to come and eat at the restaurant once in a while. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, how then do you guys begin to build together? Now you're married, two hustlers married. You don't even have money for a wedding, but team squad, How does it then move?
Well, it started like a small home. We started from Avondale in a one-roomed house. And the aspect of business, of course, we would sit as a couple to just discuss what is going on. Of course, I stopped going to my sister's restaurant because I was now married. And then from there, he could tell me what he's doing at the shop, and also giving me reports of what he's doing, and started buying, into what he was doing at the time. And it started growing bit by bit until he started teaching me some of the things. I've actually been a mentee to him from the time that we got together. That's about almost 2 decades ago. Yeah. So I started learning bit by bit. And then from there, we got into business of school because both of us now became teachers. So the time we were getting married, I was into university and I was doing teaching. He was already a graduate from University of Zambia, and he was telling me the thoughts of starting a business, a school business, and so on. So it started a small business, which was just a tuition center with just 4 pupils. And then from there, it started growing into a big school, and then it was registered. And when we saw the demand, by the grace of God, it started birthing all these things that people are able to see.
Okay. Yeah. Throughout all this struggle that you went through, were there times in your life where you felt sorry for yourself?
Sorry for myself. Maybe when I was still in the village, I would admire some things, but I had no way out. Yeah. I would feel sorry for myself, especially the time when I was getting into secondary school. I used to feel bad about it because I felt like I was a trouble to my mother because I would need this for school, I would need this, and I would feel very bad about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And through all of this, do you have a moment where you felt like, okay, like it's about to, it's about to change?
Yeah.
At what point did you feel like this won't last forever? Like this poverty, no, we're about to get out of this?
I think changing of life starts with an individual. For me, it was, I think it was birthed when I got married and I saw these businesses coming up, and I saw some people also doing some things in life. I started realizing or understanding myself. I started discovering to say, even when I had that past, which was so painful in life, it could change in some ways. So when I started providing for my family, my mother and also some of my siblings, I started realizing to say, I think this is something that I can do. So the inner part of me started convincing me to say, I think the future could be bright. Yeah.
From the village days to the Soweto restaurant days, what lessons did you learn that even to this day in 2023 you still carry with you?
A lot of lessons, and I think this is what has built my character, I would say. Some of them that I still value even up to now would be hard work. In the village, it was a routine of waking up in the morning, you are in the field, and then you have to do home chores. You are in the field fetching firewood, you are at the well fetching water, and you're cooking. And for me, I took it to say it's a lifestyle. But in the normal sense, I would say that is actually hard work. That was the birth of hard work, because I would not sit, even when I was in secondary school, I would not sit without doing anything. And this is the reason why I found favor even in the people that were keeping me to say, oh, this girl is hardworking, and so on. For me, I didn't even realize it was hard work, but I thought it was a way of life. So I have taken up that up to today, and I appreciate it so much. Other than that, I think it's the aspect of godliness, a routine of going to church. Every Sabbath would bath, go to church, worship with everyone, and in the evening would sit as family. Mom is praying for us, and she's, talking about our future and all that. But, there was no inspiration, like I said earlier, that was coming from her to us as children or to me as a child, because her future was that time. So I was not seeing anything that she was praying for. I was wondering, but I realized this time around to say, actually, the prayers that she was giving us and that she was teaching us, the godliness, is what has birthed what I have become today.
Okay.
Yes.
And for most people who go through what you went through, you grew up in a life of poverty. And now you're comfortable and you've got these children that you have.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ensure that you don't raise spoiled kids that are entitled? Because you appreciate what you have because you know where you came from.
Mm-hmm.
But your kids don't know what poverty is. And it happens for a lot of people. Your kids have no idea what poverty is. Mommy will always be there. That Bali will pay. You've heard those expressions before.
Yeah.
How do parents ensure that their children still embody the spirit of hard work, even though they come from comfort?
Well, on our part, as a couple, we have put deliberate programs for our children to expose them to different environments. Sometimes we even take them to the village to just show them, to say, this is where we're coming from, and this is where the hard work is being birthed from. At times, we also expose them to get to places where people are really suffering, and they are in need. For instance, we'll tell them about life, to say life sometimes is good, at times it's bad. And we also encourage them to get some things that they have been using, and we take to orphanages just to go and give to those that are in need. So we tell them by action, actually. We show them life by action, the way we live and everything. So we have tried our best to expose our children to all kinds of life, and we have taught them to say sometimes life is okay, sometimes life is bad. So we are praying that they should not be spoiled children, despite what we have done for them in terms of investment. Yeah.
Have you ever just punished them? I'm just joking. But also, you mentioned the aspect of hard work. And in Zambia, mostly you find that you put in the hard work when you're actually starting the business.
Mm-hmm.
When the business is established, now you have employees, you just, just on the phone, you don't actually do any work. How is it like with you?
Well, unfortunately, business is a daily thing and it's a hands-on. So there's no a time that you can relax. The time that you become complacent, it simply means the business is going down. Because business is like a human life. One needs to feed it. You nurture it every day. You water it every day. And there's no a time that you can actually relax. Maybe even a job would be better, I would say, because there's a time that you have to say, oh, I'm knocking off. But with business, you have to be there all the time, check what is happening, the human resource aspect, which is the hardest thing in a business. Yeah. And then also just looking at the welfare of the business, where we're going, where are we at, and so on. Even when you have grown maybe to the apex, you have to make sure that you maintain. How do you maintain? So you bring in all those aspects now of how do you maintain floating in the business. Yes,
most people that come here, they run businesses, I always ask them about the human resource aspect. And I'm going to ask you as well so I can get your perspective.
Okay.
How do you keep your staff happy? How do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them giving more than 100 to the business? Because most people don't care. Like, they know if I mess up today, it's the chunk. But they'll sort it out, you know. They have a negative attitude. How do you change that in staff?
There's a lot to do. If there's something that is hard, actually, is the human resource aspect in the business. So we have tried our best to bring in a lot of incentives for them so that you motivate them. They need motivation. So motivation could be in terms of emoluments. Other than emoluments, I think there's the aspect of them feeling part and parcel of the business. So that responsibility must be embedded in them so they can feel part and parcel of the business, to say they are also beneficiaries to that business and therefore they have to take care of it. If it goes down, all of us suffer. So that aspect of responsibility and motivation are some of the things that we have put up for our staff, and they are motivated. And also maybe the aspect of their personal lives. As owners of a businesses, it's important for you to know their personal lives individually. You have to know why somebody is behaving in a certain way. You find that somebody comes for work and this person comes for work in a mood and you don't understand. So as somebody that doesn't care, you would just say this person is moody and maybe you end up misjudging. But if you know somebody from where they're coming from and what they're going through, their social life and all that, you'll be able to tell us, okay, this is because of this. And therefore, you bring them closer, see what you can do. If it's counseling, you counsel them and then you see how best you can do. Because believe you me, any person that is disturbed where they're coming from or socially, they will not perform well. So the productivity goes down because this person is disturbed, this person is not happy, and they cannot perform, they cannot produce anything at the end of the day when they come for work.
Okay. Again, when you get too close with your staff, how do you avoid chibeleshe, like them taking you for granted?
You just have to put boundaries. They must know a time for playing with them, and they also must know to say this is extremely work. So as a leader, you should have maybe different hats that you wear at different times. And when something goes wrong, you have to say it and correct it. And then from there, you get back to work. So it depends on a situation that you are resolving at a particular time. So it's case by case.
Earlier, we were talking about kids and whatnot. Generational wealth is something that we struggle with in this country. We've seen our colleagues, these Asian nationals, the Indians, how the father will start the business, the son will talk about the business, the daughter will talk about the business. You find the generation, like 3 generations are running the same business and is still living. Here in Zambia, when, the one that began the business dies, next you hear, they sold the business, or they'll take over and they'll abuse the resources. There's no money anymore. People leave and the business just dies. For you, is generational wealth something you think about? And also, how are you ensuring that beyond you and your husband, your business will live on 50, 100 years from now?
We wish for that. Yeah, because we have put in a lot and we have done our best as parents so far, and we are still yet to do more, actually. And generational wealth is something I think that is not seen anymore, but some are doing it, like the example that you've given, our colleagues, the Asians, the Indians, and what we have learned from them actually is the aspect of passing the mantle to the next person. So in our case, what we have done, we have engaged our children to be part and parcel of the businesses, of course, at a lower level because they are still young. They are still young, and we are trying our best to just engage them in some activities. And also we go with them to the offices to just show them what is happening. And also the part of a responsibility to say this that we are doing is a build up or a starting stage rather for them in their lives. So they are part and parcel of owning those businesses, and therefore they should be responsible enough and would love to see these businesses even grow more, even when we decide to retire.
Is it easy?
Not so easy because children have got different career paths, I would say. Yes, because you find that this one is talking about being a lawyer, this one is talking about being an engineer, and you as parents, you are in the business, and you are wishing to say our children could pick it up when we retire, but we try our best to engage them so that they don't go away from the business aspect, and they should make sure that at least what we have built should grow in their hands, and they should also pass it on to the next generation.
How do you think other parents can raise more financially responsible children?
It's the aspect of exposing the children to money at an early stage, which is a rare thing that happens to many parents, or most parents rather. If something is not exposed to somebody at an early stage, they tend to, should I say, abuse it? Yes. So the best thing that we can do, or that we are doing, is expose the children to the monies, but of course with guidance, and tell them to say this is how money is used, and these are the dangers of money. If you don't use it well, it can lead you to this and that.
What is an early age?
An early age, even as early as 5 is okay. A child must know to say, this money I have to work for it, and this money can be spent like this. Teach them the aspect of saving, to say you have to save for tomorrow, just in case tomorrow you don't have, you can use the savings.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are some of the things that we're actually engaging them into. So spoiling a child is something that we might do as parents without even realizing that we are spoiling our children, especially those that have in abundance. They give money to children without even guidance to say maybe a child should bring change. So that responsibility is not in them. And therefore for the children, because money is a dangerous thing if someone is not guided. So if they are guided to say this is how money is used and you have to bring back the change, this is how you use the money and so on, you find that a child will get that money, use it for anything, especially this time around when children are being exposed to a lot of things. You find them getting into other things such as drugs and other things that to make them happy and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Earlier we talked about you and your husband and how you met and whatnot. These days mostly, because at the time that you are meeting him, you are in poverty, and you also find this guy who's equally struggling, basically at the same level. Mm-hmm. Today, in today's world, 2023, most women, and I'm very careful with my words, most women, or some women, let me say some women, yes, some women is correct, some women who maybe are struggling financially will not want to associate with a man who's also struggling, because you want maybe to find a man who helps you out of that poverty. You want to find someone who's already established, or someone who you can see that, okay, this one, at least he's not there, but from his record, you can see he's going somewhere, And then there is you who decides to marry a guy who can't even afford a wedding, What made you believe that your husband had this potential and that it would then blossom? Because I don't think you saw 20 years from the time you're getting married.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what made you still go into that marriage? What gave you the idea that this guy is going somewhere?
His consistency is one of the things that made me convince my thoughts about him and moving on with him in life. He's a man that has been consistent rather in his dealings, in his words. And if he promises something to say, I will do this, he will definitely fulfill it. So one of the things that I loved the most that maybe attracted me to him was the consistency, and also actualizing his ideas. So an idea could be small, but you find that he actualizes it, small as it may be. So it is that just made me to say, okay, I think this is making some sense. If something big came, I think this is something that can grow even bigger. Yeah, so for a man or a lady out there maybe that could be listening, it's very easy for someone to know that this person is not, doesn't have potential, or he has potential from those traits that I have talked about. So there's no need of somebody thinking about, what is it that I can do? Or maybe should I say, there's no need of somebody going for someone that is already established. Actually, wealth that is created together is enjoyable. Yeah, because you are growing together, also understanding that what we are doing is for both of us. Yeah.
Some few weeks back, I was talking to Chomba. She's a lady that runs Miraki. You know Miraki, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And I asked her, how easy is it for you to work with your husband on the business? And she says, it didn't work for us. It didn't work. And she didn't sugarcoat it and say, no. She just said it didn't work. Like for us, it didn't work, you know? But it seems to have worked for you. What do you think is the secret to making a business partnership work with your spouse? Because most people would rather have a marriage and a business this side. You know, either the wife is in the business or the husband is in the business, but most of them struggle really to run a business together. How has it worked for you? What has been the secret behind the success of working very well with your husband in running a successful business?
Okay. Well, these are two different institutions, like any other person would describe them. Marriage is an institution that is quite complex on its own, and it has to be managed properly by two people. And business equally is an institution. It has its own complexities, and it has to be run by people that have an interest for it, and so on. But as for me, I have accepted to be a mentee to my husband in the business. He's been my mentor. And apart from that, I have bought into his vision. I have bought into his vision such that to be a co-director of these institutions has been an easy thing because he has accepted me, and I have also accepted him and also bought into the vision. And apart from that, I think it's the aspect of understanding your roles as a woman or as a wife, and differentiating between a relationship and a business is another aspect where it's a thin line that is there, but people must be able to differentiate between marriage and also the business aspect. So maintaining your lane is another issue where if you are a wife, you play the roles of a wife when you are at home, and when you get to work, it must be strict work. When you're done with your work, you get home, it should be strict home. Yeah, so that part, I think most people overlap. They fail to differentiate between a relationship and a business. So for me, I have maintained my lane as a wife, and I have maintained my lane when I go to work. My husband is my boss. I report to him every day. I tell him my weekly programs, and I report to him on any achievements or any failures for the week.
How easy is it that maybe at home you fight, and then you've gone for work together, and then he gives you an instruction, or can you make sure that this payment is made, or let's do this, someone's coming, aren't you attend that meeting? How easy is it?
We don't fight, so
You don't fight?
No, we don't fight.
A marriage where you don't fight, you don't argue, nothing.
Okay, we do argue, of course, but of course we come to terms. Okay, so there's something that is that we both look at, which is the business aspect at the end of the day. We argue in a lot of things, but at the end of the day, we come back to agreeing to something so that we are not disturbed when it comes to work. Because we're looking at all these lives, a lot of lives, and if we take our arguments or whatever we are harboring to work, it simply means will affect the work, will also affect the people that we are working with. So we try by all means to resolve matters when we're still at home, and we get to work on a new page, and we work normally. So that is the discipline aspect now that comes in an individual, like in my case and also in his case, because we are dealing with a lot of people, we're dealing with business, and when things are not okay at home, even at work, it will not be well. So we try our best to just clear everything that was not well at home so that when we get to work, things will be better.
Right. In your almost like 20 years of marriage, what would you say has been the hardest time in your marriage?
In terms of marriage?
Yes, marriage.
I don't remember the hardest of it, but I think it's a journey where there would be hard times and it would pass. But my concentration would be to shape this character that God has given me even as he shapes me as well, because it's a journey. So hard times come and they go.
And you mentioned that you don't
Yeah.
fight. How did you get to that point where you don't fight? Because
Okay, so we
fighting
are.
should be happening in marriage. Okay, not that it should be happening, but it's a normal thing in a marriage.
It's a normal thing, yes. So one other principle maybe that we have inculcated in our marriage is the aspect of talking. So we dialogue when something has gone wrong. We'll not sleep until we dialogue. So if he wants to pretend to sleep, I wake him up to say, no, you have to wake up, we talk. We need to resolve this matter before morning because tomorrow in the morning we are going for work. So the aspect of dialogue has really helped us because we come out, if it's crying, I cry if it's something that is supposed to be cried for. Yeah, I cry and then it ends there. So we talk about it and it has to pass so that when we get to work, it's something that is not going to disturb us. Yeah.
There are a lot of divorce cases that we're seeing in the country. A lot of young couples are ending their marriages. These days, 20 years of marriage is a big deal because marriage is not easy. Most people are giving up on it. What would you say is the success to a success? I mean, is a secret to having a successful marriage that you feel that young people have not really understood?
Leadership. The leadership aspect, especially from the man's point of view, you are called head of the house. So being a head of a house, it simply means you have to be a leader in all aspects of life. So as women, we are emotionally weak and would want a partner that is that has a strong willpower in all areas of life. And that is where the trust comes from. And if a man is weak, it becomes a bit difficult for a marriage to work out. I'll give you an example of the Bible. Yeah. So a man is the head of a house. So being a head of a house, it simply means you have to lead in all areas of life. But this time around, I don't know whether the men are being vulnerable compared to the women folk in that most women this time, you find a lot of women working and the man is not working. He's not able to provide according to the Bible. He's not providing according to the responsibilities that he's supposed to have as a man. And in the long run, because that is not how it was designed, a woman gets tired at a certain point to provide in the house because she is not the head of the house by definition. So quarrels start. And they start differing, and it's those small things that lead to divorces. But it also takes somebody that has endurance and also understanding and also shaping each other even as you go on. And the aspect of communication is also very important. But all in all, men should be leaders, not only heads of a house, but they should be leaders. Leaders in terms of provision, leaders in terms of giving direction in the home, leaders in terms of building a future for their home. So if a woman is more stronger, most of the times you find that women, is that comes in us, a natural, feeling that starts coming in us to say, no, I think this is too much for me and so on, because that is how it is designed.
All right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you guys run a group of companies and you've got 6 companies under it. And with that really comes a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, a lot of exhaustion. How do you still keep your mental health in check? Because, like I said, you're not just dealing with a business. Mm-hmm. You're also a wife. You're also a mother. You've got your family. He's got his family. People will come to you, no, we've got this. And these days, when people say, you're doing fine, I mean, everything is you. Even things that you're not concerned with, they still come to you. And
absolutely,
you're dealing with everything from all these different directions. How do you still keep your mental health in check?
I give myself a break once in a while. Maybe a day off or so. Sometimes I go out. I'm an outgoing person. So at times I go out, just go and shop. I finish my stress in shopping at times. And at times, of course, I'm with friends, just having chats. And of course, I have a spouse that is that helps me to just distress. So when I'm home, I have a shoulder to lean on. And Yeah, those are some of the things that I do. But because of the many things that we do or that we are engaged into, we have rare times to go out. Maybe for 5-10 days, you've gone to, outside the country. So the businesses have to be running. Systems, of course, are there, but businesses, like I said, it's a hands-on. So rare are times that we go out and then we leave the businesses for many days just for us to distress.
Do you believe in therapy, like sitting down with a shrink and talking about how do you feel? How did that make you feel? What are you going through?
From the little experiences that I have seen, I do believe in that. And I just realized to say actually therapy is natural at times. It depends on how you take it. Others take it so formal that, no, I'm going for therapy. But I feel therapy is something that happens sometimes without even realizing. I'm talking to you and we are talking about this, something that is fascinating, and I'm distressed. So it's something that works out for anybody through your interaction, the activities that you are found in. It's a therapy.
Okay.
Yes.
And as we come to an end, if you were to advise young women, especially like young wives, what 5 things would you say to them? What 5 pieces of advice would you give to young wives? Okay,
the first thing that I can advise a young wife would be you can start from anywhere with a spouse. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that somebody has to be rich or wealthy for you to get into marriage or into a relationship. You can start from anywhere. You grow that relationship or that wealth in a relationship, rather, together with the person. So it's about the potential that somebody has and not the material things that you find with that particular person. Yeah, so maybe the second one would be young wives out there maybe should maintain their lane. So maintaining their lane in that as a woman, you need to know your role. You need to know your limits. As a woman, you need to know what you're supposed to do to your husband, at which point to advise, and so on. So you maintain your lane as a wife. Even when you're at work, you should also realize to say you are a wife, especially if you're working together. You must have that wisdom that should differentiate you from any other employee that is within the organization. And then the other point that I can talk about is maybe planning aspect. Yes, so for you not to entangle yourself into the many things that you are doing is also the planning aspect. It's very important for you to have a plan for the day, plan for the week, plan for the month, plan also even for the family. Yeah, so things move smoothly when you have a plan, unlike working without a plan. Yes, and then the other one maybe would be, which other one? Okay, maybe the last one that I didn't really want to leave out is the aspect of being prayerful. As a young couple, everything that we do borders on God. He should be put at the center of everything that we do, because we cannot even boast about anything if we don't have God at the center of everything that we are doing, because He's our guide. He's the one that gives us those people that, we get married to. And therefore, we put Him at the center to help us in everything that we are doing, to guide us in everything that we are doing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Siatwambo. And wish you the best in your businesses.
Thank you, Swila.
And in building your generational wealth.
I know.
We are looking at learning from you.
Thank you so much.
So
actually, we are building it in style. I have a page and I'm calling it Creating Wealth with Love, because I have believed to say, as a couple, you can still work together and you can still create wealth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, are you like mentoring other young couples as well? Because also, I think that's what we need. Mm-hmm. You seem to have, made it work. Others should also, see and say, okay, these guys are doing it well. How can I approach them and learn from them?
A number of them actually are approaching me, and I'm thinking of starting up a podcast. You teach me how to do it. Yeah. A lot of them come and they consult, and I give them advice on how they can go about it through the experience that I've had with my husband. So we give them counsel, we give them guidance. A lot of them come for that.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you created time even with all these things going on in your life. I feel like that's what also like gives your life purpose, like or the fact that you're giving back to others.
Absolutely.
The fact that you know, because at the end of the day, when you sit down with them or when you spend time with them, does not mean you've got nothing to do, but it means that you've sacrificed something for you to create time for them. Which I
Actually,
feel like is
it's
commendable.
so fulfilling when you are giving it to your services to humanity. It is just so fulfilling. And for me, I feel when I talk to a couple and maybe they were struggling in a certain way, and then I advise on how they can go about it, it's so fulfilling than even just having wealth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the one thing I forgot is that she was the matron on our wedding. So, but you haven't sat down with us ever since then. You've been too busy for us.
I'll sit you down, don't worry.
No, thank you so much for making the time, and wish you all the best.
Pleasure is mine.
We look forward to seeing that podcast up and running.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll be around. Don't worry.
Thank you so much.